Ready to level up your career? Text DISH to 44043 now to dive into a world of exciting technician opportunities at DISH. From cutting-edge technology to a supportive work environment, DISH offers the perfect platform for your success. Connect with us today to discover how you can be part of a dynamic team driving innovation. Connect today and join the DISH family, where innovation meets opportunity. Text DISH to 44043 to kickstart your journey towards a rewarding career.
30 years ago today, Kurt Cobain, Dave Grohl, Chris Novoselic released Nevermind, Nirvana. Wow. First time we heard that song. It knocked us on our ass. 30 years ago today.
Makes me feel so old.
The band was in Boston, and what were they doing? They were stripped down to their underwear, playing Twister, covered in Crisco.
Tell me about what you guys were doing earlier tonight. Whose idea?
Well, Kurt thought up the Twister, and I thought up the Crisco. And everybody kind of copped out. I mean, it would have been a groovy love session. You know, we kind of sprinkled glitter on everybody and stuff, you know. And then, I don't know, the American flag got drug in it somehow. So these patriotic jocks will probably be working me over within about half an hour.
They were at Bill's Bar on Lansdowne Street.
Oh, my God, I've been there.
Playing Crisco Twister.
Man.
A friend of ours, Ted Volk, was working for the record label at the time, and he was with Nirvana 30 years ago today in Boston.
Wow.
Hey, Ted, 30 years ago this morning, you're with Nirvana. Nevermind is coming out. You're with them in Boston. They had a couple little indie albums out, but no one had any expectation for this album.
I don't think anybody really thought of much about it, to be quite honest with you, only because it was just this young college act, so to speak, that had a little buzz about them. And I had them for 3 days in Boston at the beginning of right when the album came out.
So you're with Kurt Cobain as Nevermind is coming out. Does he or Dave or Chris have any idea what is about to happen?
Most certainly not. He had no concept that any of this was going to happen. It was something it's something you rarely ever see. There was a hotel, I don't know what it is now, but right in Kenmore Square, where all the bands, if you were a young, struggling band, you stayed at the Howard Johnson's in Kenmore Square. That was just kind of like your rite of passage.
So you're with them the night before the album is about to come out. What did you guys do?
He wanted to go see one of his favorite bands, the Melvins. They were at the Rapskeller, which I don't think is there anymore. And his name's supposedly on the guest list. And he tells the bouncer, but the bouncer won't let him in the club because his name's not on the list. And we're all standing out there. And then kind of out of nowhere, this woman pops up, grabs the bouncer's arm, and says, "This is Jesus Christ, and you got to let this guy in this club right now."
Wow.
And, you know, my girlfriend now, my wife, and we both look at each other and said, well, that's really odd. So they let us in. We start walking down the stairs. Most people have already left. We missed the band. And walking up the stairs are two kids, believe it or not, wearing Nirvana T-shirts.
Wow.
And they look at him like they did just see Jesus. Whoa, what is going on?
It just blows my mind that you walked out of the Howard Johnsons with that band 30 years ago today, and then it did change the world. This album did change the world. What is it about that record that changed the world, Ted?
Well, I think for me, we were at a club called Axis, and I'm sure that anybody who's involved in setting up a bar or a club at 4 p.m., there's a lot of activity happening, getting ready for the night, and all the workers. But that's when bands usually sound check. And when Kurt didn't really necessarily have a guitar in his hand, he was always wearing his green sweater. He was very quiet. He was shy. He was soft-spoken. They get on stage to start the sound check. He plugs in the guitar, and I swear to God, the 20 people milling around the club getting it ready to open, everybody completely stopped what they were doing and just looked at something like you've never really seen, like what just happened.
Wow.
And that, to me, at that moment, was, again, something that you just haven't really, something you just don't really see that often. And that was one of the experiences that you realize that you were in the middle of maybe seeing something truly special.
Yeah.
And it happened so fast. It was that type of whirlwind of everything that occurred.
30 years, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what to make of that. I don't. You really don't. I mean, There was a bunch of records that came out at that exact moment. I believe that the Chili Peppers had an album that came out that day, Under the Bridge, which turned out to be one of the biggest songs ever.
Yeah.
I think Soundgarden had an album that came out during that moment. And there was another young band, too, that were lurking in the background trying to find notice, and that was Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
You know, it was interesting going back to that show that night in Boston. It was a local band. They were on RC, I believe, Bullet La Volta, but the support act that night for Nirvana at that show was Smashing Pumpkins.
No kidding.
And soon after that, they went on, as you know,
Yep.
a historic run.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. I mean, it's just those things. When you're in it, Herb, you never realize this is what's actually occurring. But there were clues that you actually saw with Nirvana that something like you just haven't really seen before was in the middle of happening. Really special to be a part of.
How cool that you were there for it, man. Historic. So thank you for sharing that, Ted. I appreciate it.
Well, Herb, great to say hello.
You got it.
Wow. Awesome interview.
Ted Volk with the band 30 years ago today. Good friend of ours. I'm sure Ted was involved with the Crisco Twister. He just didn't want to.
Just didn't want to say so. Okay.